Well, Razorback fans, the Razorbacks have struggled at home, and no one really knows why. So let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hopefully everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday, midway point of the week. And because they've become so popular, I'm going to continue on with my Why I Hate series tomorrow and why I hate Tennessee. I kind of had a feeling that they would be fairly popular, but it's been pretty funny how popular they actually have ended up being. So anyways, it's been great though. And we'll get to that. We'll also get into some basketball talk as John Calipari met with the Razorback media for the first time, getting ready for practice, and had some interesting stuff from there. But I wanted to bring up something when we've heard from the coaches, and or at least one coach, Sam Pittman, and a few of the players, and I've done some interviews, and I've talked with other people with Locked On, and just looking at this game with Tennessee. It's to say it's a big game is putting really an understatement on it. I don't think it's a do or die game when it comes to the future of Sam Pittman or anything like that. Because to be honest, it's a game I think most people probably felt like Arkansas was going to lose, and they should lose. They are not favored in this game, and I think if Arkansas was able to pull off a victory, it would be a major upset, considered a major upset. But the thing is, and I was trying to explain this to some of the people with Locked On when I was doing the SEC roundtable or whatever you want to call it, that they're like, oh, well, this game's at home, night game in Fayetteville and blah, blah, blah. And I almost giggled at that, not because of them asking the question or making those comments. It's just of how absurd it is that that's not a factor, or doesn't feel like it's a factor for Razorback football right now. There's one big constant, or at least there should be one big constant in any sport, but particularly college sports: home field, home court advantage. And for whatever reason, Arkansas football has not had that. It has not had the home field advantage that it should have, or at least could have. I know a lot of you are younger who listen to this podcast and maybe haven't gone to a ton of Razorback games, throughout the history. Some of you maybe come on later. But, I remember as a kid going to the majority of the games in Fayetteville. I've said this many times. I only missed 2 home games in Fayetteville since 1997. And I just remember going to those games and thinking about how much fun it was. How much fun it was, not just because you get to see the Razorbacks in Fayetteville, mind you, but just how cool it was to be able to be in an atmosphere like that. And seeing the pageantry and tradition and everything. And I always felt like Arkansas at home, wasn't like the elite of the elite atmospheres, but it was an atmosphere that I felt like could be very intimidating. And that really got increased, of course, when they enclosed the south end zone back in the early 2000s. And then time went on. And eventually it got to the point where the early 2010s, the Bobby Petrino years, as well as the mid-2010s, that little stretch right there, it was really inspiring and really incredible, because in that stretch was some of the loudest moments, the most raucous atmospheres, I believe, that Razorback Stadium has ever seen. You think back to, of course, the one that we all know which one I believe is, at least, but 2010 Alabama. And Arkansas didn't win the game, but it's the loudest. Still the loudest moment, loudest game I've ever been in. Right there in Fayetteville. I think to the 2011 Auburn, South Carolina games, incredible atmospheres. I mean, it helps when your team is actually a top 10, top 15 team, but still an incredible atmosphere that I feel was a factor in that one and which led and helped Arkansas win the game. And then even in the years when Arkansas wasn't that good, like the Texas A&M game when Johnny Manziel came to town 2013, and how loud that was when he got sacked there by Dietrich Wise. I remember that. I remember in 2014, the LSU game when they finally broke the streak, or even the Bama game that same year. Incredible atmospheres. And it felt like it played a factor into the performances there. I guess you could say, I mean, you could go a lot of different games with this, but I'll go to 2016 Ole Miss in town, where the incredible game, Chad Kelly gets hit by Santos Ramirez and fumbles the ball. And it was just a loud moment. My point in saying all this, folks, is like that stretch, I can go off the top of my head and remember loud moments, loud games, and not just loud, but atmospheres that I feel like played a role in Arkansas either winning the game or having success in the game. Maybe playing above their heads a little bit, playing better than what they normally would. And I hate to even bring this up, but it certainly feels like as soon as the Chad Morris arrival happened, the atmosphere, the energy, I guess since they enclosed the north end zone essentially, it hasn't been anything of note. I mean, that Texas game in 2021 was incredible. Don't get me wrong. The atmosphere was wild and crazy and electric. But that's one game out of, 6-7 years worth of games that you could actually point to and say, man, that was an atmosphere that the fans and the crowd played a role in the success of the team. Also, do not misconstrue. I am not saying the fans or anybody there is for the reason why it's a problem. Like, do not misconstrue that. I am not saying that, and I'm not going to ever say that about the fans. You've done your job. You've shown up to the games. There was a great crowd for the UAB game. Great crowd. But as bad as it was for those few years, the past year and a half, it's gotten worse. And it doesn't make any sense as to why. Like Arkansas playing Tennessee this weekend, the number 4 team in the country, there's going to be a butt ton of people there. I'm not saying it'll break the crowd record, but there'll be 70,000 plus there. It's a night game. Weather looks like it's going to be really nice. It's a top 5 team. I know Arkansas's Arkansas's not done well, let's be honest, but they're not a terrible trash team that no one's interested in. And so there's a lot of intrigue. And with intrigue, you're going to have people tailgating all day. You're going to have people showing up and being loud and trying to be a part of it. But there's just a feeling of, like, what are we doing wrong here? We're going to the games. We're being loud. We're trying to get up there on third down. And, hearing the John George, it's third down. You hear the Stone Cold music come in with the glass breaking, which they probably need to move on from. But fans always try to do what they can. They try to be in it and just will them to victory and be loud, and it just hasn't paid off. It's almost like the team does not feed off energy. The only way that they succeed is, in a way, I guess, like going on the road or going away from Fayetteville. I don't know if that's when the togetherness comes together. I don't know if that's when, just they know the energy's not going to be there, so they know they like the us against the world type of mentality. I don't really understand it, and I don't really know. But the facts are the facts. And this team does not play well at home. And I'm telling you right now, folks, that has to change. It has to change this weekend. I'm not going to sit here and say that Arkansas has to win. We'll talk about that when it comes to moral victories, because I know people are going to bring that up. But the crowd in Razorback Stadium, the fans in Razorback Stadium, they deserve a little push. They deserve credit. They deserve a show. They deserve a performance. They deserve to have their energy, their atmosphere, their noise level, their attendance, their financial investment, all of that, they deserve to have that rewarded. And I'm sorry, if you're a football team or a team of any stretch, basketball, baseball, anything, if you are a sports team and you are unable to feed off of your fans, your home crowd, willing you with that energy and that noise and that and excitement, you are unable to perform better that way. That is not a team that I want to be a part of. That's not a team that you want to be representing your favorite team, wearing the Razorback on their helmets. Because I'm sorry, something I've learned, and we'll move on after this, but something I've learned in this business that I'm in. I'm not the greatest. I wouldn't even call myself great. I've been very fortunate and very blessed to do what I do. But the one thing that I have always had and my number one priority in everything that I do is energy. Because if you're doing something, if you're putting on a performance, if you're doing something that has a large audience or an audience of people, what will people always feed the most off of? What will always hit them where it matters the most and make them listen, make them pay attention, make them think, make them feel, make them get emotional, all of that. What is the thing that will strike people in a certain way that it's hard to even put into words? Energy. Energy is always a very, very addictive thing, but also something that spreads tremendously when done right. Razorback fans, you deserve to have your Hogs and your football team in Razorback Stadium this Saturday giving you their all and making it a game. That's what they have to do. No questions asked. But we'll talk about them after actually winning. We'll get into that here in just a second. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, folks, I'm going to tell you about that Game Time app. A lot of you are probably looking for tickets for this weekend's game. Maybe you're considering making the trip to Fayetteville at the last minute, but you're like, crap, honey, we don't got any tickets. Well, I got a solution for you. Download the Game Time app. Download it on the Android or iPhone store, and when you download it, you'll be able to see all the different great features that Game Time has to offer for you. It makes it easier to save a lot more money than going to any of these other websites or using these other apps. And one of my favorite things that they have is the all-in pricing feature, because we know that if you ever bought tickets from other websites or other apps, it's like, oh, well, hey, that's a heck of a deal. And then 2 steps later, you're like, I just got charged double than what it looked like before. You can toggle that feature right there on Game Time. They'll give you the all-in pricing right up front, so there's no hidden fees. There's no extra fees. The price you see is the price you get, guaranteed. You also get seat views, where you can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. Also, the lowest price guarantee, and if you find a ticket that was lower, they will credit you 110% difference. It's that easy. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time by downloading the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I know we'll do a crossover with Eric Kane, who does Locked On Vols. Does a great job with him, too. As much as I hate Tennessee, he does a good job with it, and he's a good dude. So we'll be having that later on. But I haven't talked to a single Razorback fan that feels like Arkansas is going to win this game against Tennessee. And honestly, if any of you came to me and was like, here's why Arkansas, I'm going to tell you Arkansas is going to win this game and here's why, I wouldn't listen. Just to be honest with you, I wouldn't listen. Because in my mind, it needs to be an incredible feat that of epic proportions that nobody sees coming, and something that is just such a shock that no one could even wrap their mind around it. You would have to have Arkansas play an A+ game where Taylon Green's making great throws, and you got Jaquinton Jackson running all over the field, and the defense is swarming, and you don't turn the ball over. It would take a lot. It would honestly take a lot for me to believe that this team is going to beat Tennessee. It's not saying it's impossible, but just given the facts and given what we've seen so far, it will be a little tough. So if I or none of you believe that this is a game that Arkansas is going to win, what's the point of it? Like, what can you get out of it? Is the only positive thing you can get out of it is a win. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not a moral victory person. I know that's such a cliche thing to say. I'm not about moral victories, but seriously, it's like you're past the point of moral victories. You got to win games. But luckily for Arkansas, there's still games on their schedule that are winnable. If Arkansas loses this game, they're 3-3 with 6 games left. They have a bye week. And I believe, I'm going to be honest, I believe there are 3 games left on the schedule that Arkansas can win and go to a bowl game. So 6-6 isn't exactly going to set the world on fire with excitement, but it's better and has a chance to go for 7 wins. So I don't think that this game is do or die for Sam Pittman. But what I do believe, it's a do or die performance. And what I mean by that is that Sam Pittman and this Razorback football team has to perform competitively. If Arkansas gets the doors blown off of them by Tennessee, when I say doors blown off, I'm talking about like 55-17, something to that extent, it's about to come crumbling down. That's just my opinion. I think it's about to get nasty and get bad, like real bad, if that happens. Now, I'm not going to predict that to happen. I think Arkansas can realistically hold their own and even make a little bit of an interesting game out of it. I believe that. But you got to be able to show them something. You got to be able to show everybody, show me something. You know, before the season started, if I said in the first 5 games you'd be 3-2, I don't think anyone would be thrilled, but I don't think anybody would be like pissed, you know, like saying like, oh man, we're trash. Because you would have been like, hey, between Oklahoma State, Auburn, and Texas A&M, you win one of those. Wouldn't have been surprising. But the problem is that you've lost 2 of those games, and both of them you should have won. That's the problem. Arkansas could very easily be 5-0. In fact, they probably should be 5-0. Let's just be honest about it. They should be 5-0. It's frustrating, and that's the problem. So it's not like so far this year it's been well below everyone's expectations. And this particular game, my expectation is to just fight. Fight. Show that you care. Show that you're trying. Show that you're developing. Showing that you're not going to take it sitting down. Try to protect your house a little bit here. Give everybody reasons to believe in you. And if you're just going to go in there willy-nilly and be down 21-0 midway through the second quarter, nobody wants to see that, man. Nobody will want to hear about it and what you're going to do or not do. But if you go into this game and head into the fourth quarter, the game is still in doubt. There's still some possibilities there. Suddenly it feels a little bit nice because you're fighting. It may not always be pretty. It won't be perfect, but you're fighting. That's what I want to see. I don't think it's too much to ask. Sam Pittman and this Razorback football team, perfectly capable of it, but they got to show us something. Do want to break up a little basketball. John Calipari, right? Talking yesterday with the media. So let's talk about that here in just a second on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Stay with us. All right, folks. I'm going to tell you about FanDuel, of course, all you fans out there. We know that you can go with the football season that's going on right now. Pretty big time, right in the middle of the smack of the season. Really great for NFL and college football. But you get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, when you place your first dollar bet with FanDuel. So check it out today, where you get your place your first $5 bet, and get $200 back in bonus bets. It's only with FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book. It's FanDuel.com. All right, final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. John Calipari, Razorback head basketball coach, met with the media, and it's going to be interesting being in the media and covering him and going to his press conferences and hearing his answers because he speaks a lot. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of words, and a lot of it's very interesting. I mean, he's really good at what he does. But I want to play a couple clips here and reasons why, if you're not already fired up for basketball, but listen to a couple of these clips will get you really fired up. And this first one is just going to be talking about his excitement at Arkansas since arriving. Take a listen.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I'm excited about us getting going, but I got to tell you that like everywhere I go, people are, Coach, can't believe it. We're so happy. And I just don't know when we lose a game or two where that will go. But I could tell you that as excited as people are that I'm here, I'm excited to be here. And this is an honor. Like I've gotten together with Coach Richardson. Coach Sutton, you guys know the relationship I had with him, and his son was here. His grandson's in the as a manager for us. But to be in a program where they coach, they're talking 2 Hall of Famers, to be able to be here. And I say this to all of you, and I'm doing this and saying this in a positive way. I'm in a seat that I can use the term, I'm like the rented in the seat. And so what I do with the seat, I think it's important that I get involved in the community. I think it's important that I take the team out and let people see it. I'm approachable, but my players are also approachable. I think that's really important. And if you don't, you cheat the position. So this position, there will be someone else in this position at some point, hopefully after I help 25 or 30 more families. Then their job will be, don't cheat the position. Don't just go watch basketball tape. Don't just be about the plays you're running. Be deeper than that. And that's how I've approached every job that I've had. So
I just love the answers that he gives of just amazing approaches of, hey, I'm here. I'm getting involved with the community and all of that. Because I feel like this, and I talked about this on Inside Arkansas Live yesterday too. I love the state of Arkansas. And one of the biggest things about Arkansas and Arkansas people, Arkansans, is that we love it when people are all in on us. We understand that players and coaches, you can't just get them all from Arkansas, although some coaches they should have just got from the state of Arkansas. Would have been a lot better, but it's neither here nor there. You can't get everybody just from the state of Arkansas, and they can't automatically love you. And you're not going to get in a relationship and date somebody that doesn't love you back. It's toxic. And a great example of that is Chad Morris. Chad Morris didn't move his family up here, and I don't care what anybody says. That was weird. And looking back on it, I didn't like that because it just doesn't show that you're truly all in on one place. And then I feel like coaches who have bought in and really got after it, I thought Muss did a really great job with it. I feel like Pittman's done a great job with it. And I think that Cal is going to be doing a great job with it too. It's very important to Razorback fans to have that relatability and that connection. And I think Cal's done a great job with that and kind of loading that up. So as great as that was, I want to play this clip when he's talking about Coach Nolan Richardson. Because you all remember that speech that Nolan Richardson gave to the team in front of Cal? That was pretty epic, but here's Cal's reaction to it days later, weeks, months later, after it all went down, and kind of get you fired up once again.
How good what? There were 2 things about it. On point, everything. There's no substitute for conditioning. There's no substitute for strength and toughness. And then he said, and either you play to win or you just play to play. Which are you? Then he also said, I like what I'm hearing and all that, but he did it in 5 minutes. Why can't you go 13 minutes? This day and age, they can't stay focused that long. So he did all that he did within 5 minutes. It was unbelievable. So, yes. And I want him to be a part of the program. I invited Ted Owens and Larry Brown and Coach Richardson, all of them, to come to this Kansas game and sit in the first row and, the history of the programs and all that. Yeah, I want to bring people in to meet with the kids and have an impact on them. So I'm sorry.
He's obviously getting up to an age, like we're all getting older, right? But it seemed like he still has his fastball, so to speak. How impressed were you that, I guess he's in his 80s now, that he could still hold an audience like that, a group of really good players?
He and I did something at his golf outing that he does for his daughter, and we sat together and went back and forth. Still really funny, like sharp. And it doesn't take him a minute to think. He has it. And I want him to feel that, just like I did with Coach Hall and Coach Bartow and Coach Lehman, you're welcome in our practice, and all suggestions are appreciated. Come on in and sit down and watch. So he knows that he's welcome to our practice. And, I think it's good for the players to see. And, again, won the national title, could have won 2. The guard gets hurt from UCLA, and Cameron Dollar, who no one knew, goes for 27. What? If that doesn't happen, they win 2 back-to-back. And how hard is that? And he did it. So he's somebody we all should respect. But
say what you want about John Calipari, and if it is it legitimate, you can take it as however you want. I'm going to take it as it's legitimate. But that right there should give you so much pride and energy and excitement about the Razorback basketball team and having John Calipari be the head of it. Because it goes back to what we talked about. Arkansas people, Arkansans, love people who buy into them. Nolan Richardson is one of them. He's one of the most beloved coaches in all of Razorback history. And we can argue it, but he accomplished the greatest feat that had ever been accomplished in Razorback sports history, and that's winning the college basketball national championship. That's not taken away from all the other national championships Arkansas has won, but that was the biggest deal. Let's just be perfectly honest about it. And the fact that there's still such a connection there for Nolan from John Calipari, it feels right, man. I don't know how great it's going to be. I think it's going to be great, but it at least feels right. It feels right, and that's important. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, wherever podcasts are found. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Neighbors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.